Welcome to the E-Show with Neil Ravin. Founded in 2013, the EHL has become the college placement leader on the East Coast. Sit back and learn more about the next step in your junior hockey career.
Welcome to the E-Show, presented by the Penalty Box Foundation. The Foundation's mission centers around their daily motto, we take care of our own, as they help out all of those within the hockey community who've experienced a catastrophic event. Learn more at penaltyboxfoundation.org. What's up? My name is Neil Ravin, and this is episode number 169 of the E-Show. On this week's episode, we shift back to the East Division and highlight the East Coast Wizards. Jake Basile chats with Kory Falite ahead of his 8th season with the program and his 4th year as the head coach. Falite reflects on what was another solid season this past year, including helping advance 9 players onto NCAA Division II and III schools for the 3rd straight campaign. The Wizards are proud of their consistency that they've established while continuing to develop their players for the next level. And icing on the cake for this upcoming year for Falite would be to help the Wizards find their way out of their tough division and advance back to Providence for the first time since 2019.
Hello, E-Show, and welcome to another installment of our Coach's Corner chat. Today's team of the week is the East Coast Wizards, so none other than Wizards head coach and general manager Kory Falite will be joining us. Coach Falite is coming off his 7th season with the Wizards program and 3rd as head coach of their junior team. He first began coaching overseas after an impressive college and professional career. Coach, thanks for taking the time to join us today.
Thanks for having me, Jake. How's it going?
Good to have you here, and we'll start off with how the season ended for the Wizards. Another series against the Express. So outside of it ending in 2 games instead of the 3 from the previous year, did it feel different as far as the game played on the ice?
It felt very similar actually. Same goalies in net, Gover and Bosch. Felt like goals were really hard to come by. In both series, I think the second game they jumped out to a 2-goal lead and we could never catch up, and they scored 1 late. But it just felt very similar defensive style, low scoring, same goalies again. Both goalies are great, so it was a good series.
Well, although the season did end there, the Wizards had a number of big wins over top teams in the league, including beating every team from that tough North Division this year. So what made your group so difficult to play against?
I think that we, again, like you just said, we could play with anybody, we could lose to anybody. And that was probably the most frustrating thing for me and for us as a coaching staff, was the inconsistency with our team. We left a lot of points on the board. We had 8 overtime games, we had 10. We won 2 of our 10 overtime games. So that's a lot of points on the board. And, those 8 losses, I would say, I off the top of my head, 5 or 6 reverse league division opponents that are 2-point swings instead of just a 1 point. So I think for us, it was just consistency. The year before, I think we were more consistent as a team, but we couldn't score. This year, we had the pieces on the back end to score, and offensive, we had the pieces. We just weren't consistent sometimes with our effort and everything else. So
you touched on that offense, and you guys did score at a higher clip this season than the season prior, led by the 240-point scorers, something you guys didn't have in 21-22. So was that top-heavier offense more of a positive for you guys, or did you ever have pressure to change things up or change up the lines, anything like that?
I'm always changing lines up, maybe to a fault at times. I think that if things go stale, let's guys can do it in certain positions, and if something's clicking, we'll stick with it. But especially early on, the first 3-4 months, trying to find combos for January, February, and March that work and that you can always go back to. I think we had more back end scoring this year, which helps get the offense going. And even some of our D, I think of like a Will Friedman, who I think he had 6 assists, no goals, 40 games played. Like, I think he should have 20 plus points with the situations that he put us in, meaning he had a lot of third assists, a lot of he was one of the best guys, in my opinion, in the league of getting pucks through from the blue line. but it was obviously we had two high end scores, which helped, right? And George and Connor, and that helps lead the way for everybody else, right? So.
And you touched on this earlier with the two of the top goaltenders playing against each other in the playoffs. The East Division had the best goalies this year. So how much pressure was there on Gover to keep up with all the other guys in the division like him?
I mean, our division's was loaded this year with goalies. Doesn't matter who you played, whether it was a backup or a starter, to be honest with you. But I think it's a constant competition with goalies in general, and not just in our division, but as a league. I think Mike Gover thought, I think he's rightfully so, thinks he was one of the best in the league and compares himself outside of our division, not just to our division too. But for sure, I mean, we always talked about it as coaching staffs before games. Goals are hard to come by in our division, so I think they just compete against each other and just works itself out that way.
You had one of the younger teams in the league this year with a lot of guys jumping into junior hockey for the first time. So what were some of the learning curves that you saw with having a heavy rookie roster?
Yeah, I think every year we're going to have we will probably be one of the low younger side in the league. Having the one team, I like my, let's say next year we'll have 04s, and I'll even mix in some 05s. This year we had Jake Jaslow as an 04 and Lowndes as an 04 in there that played a lot of minutes for us and had big roles for us. And to me, there are 04s playing in the NHL, right? So if you're ready and you're good enough, and you do the right things, you're going to get more ice time. And I think the younger guys have a higher learning curve at the beginning, but they're more likely to learn what you're teaching them too, at the same time. Right. So, so sometimes September, October is a little tricky for us. And then, with a lot of video and work and getting used to the pace, it starts to climb from there. So.
And one of your non-age outs was on the EHL All-Star College Series. George Kolovos was one of very few to be a non-age out on that team and only one of one to score in both games. So what do you think enabled him to have such a positive impact at that level, despite not being quite as old as the other players in the team?
Oh, I think mindset. George is one kid that wants the puck and wants to shoot and will give himself the opportunity. He's confident in what he can do. He's got one of the best shots in the league. And so he proved himself to be on the roster. And not only that, like you said, he scored in both games, and, he's going to be back next year. He's a kid that has a lot of offers actually. And he just maybe potentially wants to reach for higher skies academically and see what he can do. And he's got that mindset. So, it really wasn't a surprise. It put a smile on our faces, that he was able to do it. And so, with him, let's see what he can come back and do next year with kind of like a target on your back, knowing that you're a goal scorer and guys are going to come after you. So, but he'll be up for the challenge. He's one of those guys.
So we'll touch on next year towards the end and what we're looking forward to, but I want to talk about you a little bit. When you were playing junior hockey in the early 2000s, how different was the style of play versus what you have to coach now?
Well, the style is a style. I think junior hockey's the style is similar. I think that it is and it isn't. The gameplay itself is similar. I think when I played, it was the EJHL, and there was 11 teams, and if you weren't in prep school and you were a high-end guy, you were playing in that league. And it was more like the USHL is today. And, we played the Monarchs, and there'd be 25 Division I kids on the ice. And it was really, really high-end hockey. But at the same time, it doesn't matter the level. I think there are times that, when fighting coming out of the game, it makes the game a little bit chippier at times. Guys run their mouth a little bit more. And, if you did that, what some of these guys do now, it's, you're going to have to answer to it. And, I think it's changed for the better, with concussions and everything with that respect. Right. But, we just try to, as coaches, try to manage it as best you can. And they are 19, 20-year-old guys with, that are rip roaring ready to go every game. So, you got to find that fine line to find the balance, but I think what's changed the most is the off-ice stuff and how many teams there are, and the recruiting's vastly different. And there's a lot more players now, I think, in terms of, the youth, there's the same amount of players, but there's more players playing at the junior hockey now because there's more options available. Guys just would go to school and hang them up. And so there's a lot more junior players playing with the youth level being the same. It's just you can play longer and there's just so many options. And we could sit here and make your head spin on my thoughts on different things, but that's the biggest thing to me is the off ice changes with the way things are run.
And does that, the whole more options for junior hockey with the same amount of players, does that kind of make it tougher from a recruiting standpoint to find higher quality players?
Yeah, you can always find guys, in my opinion, and compete with guys, right? And it's the trick is to find that top line of guys, the top set of D, and that high end goalie that's going to set the bar up different from what you would be if you were a bunch of average players. And then, there's a world for those average players, but you can only win so many games. It is tricky finding those guys, and there's a lot of guys out there, and that's what I try to tell these guys, that with college recruiting process and whatnot, it's, St. A's is getting 500 emails a year with guys that want to play at their school. So you got to separate yourself, and we got to try to find the same thing as coaches to separate ourselves to get that guy too. So I can guarantee you there's 23 coaches, looking for that guy until February 10th or whatever the cutoff date is, so that's the trickiest part, in my opinion.
So speaking of college hockey, you played 4 years at UMass Lowell and then embarked on a professional career in the ECHL. You won a championship with Alaska. You also played in Utah, Florida, and San Francisco. So being a part of so many different hockey cultures all over the country, what was that like?
It was great. I never made $1 million playing hockey, but I saw the world, and I enjoyed every stop of the way. I encourage guys to go out and explore different places. My brother was in prep school from 9th grade on. I stayed home. I went to prep school in 8th and 9th grade, but then I was back home for high school, and even juniors I stayed at home. And then I was at UMass Lowell 10 minutes down the road. So after Lowell, it was time for me to kind of explore. And it was great. I loved all my different stops, and I like something different from each place. But it was really cool seeing different parts of the country that I would never ever live in or get the chance to live in. So that was a pretty cool experience.
Would you say that championship winning season with Alaska, was that, your pinnacle of your playing career?
Yeah, Alaska, I think Alaska was my favorite. I wouldn't say it's the pinnacle of playing career. I think it was the coolest spot as a team, like to accomplish that in that league is something really special. And in Alaska, they treated us like the Bruins. There was 10,000 people at the airport waiting for us when we got back. It was a really cool experience. But again, there's something different along the way from each spot. That was probably one of my favorite spots along the way. It was so unique, and I got to do a lot of Alaska stuff and do that kind of outdoorsy stuff, which is cool. But every spot I hold something different for.
So I guess being part of those smaller communities where there aren't a ton of professional sports, you get that sort of celebrity treatment. Was that a surprise for you?
That was a little shy, I knew that they were big up there. Just talking to some of my buddies that I played college with that have played there or played against them. But it was another experience in itself, going through it and seeing it, and they don't care if it's single A, double A, triple A, NHL. That's their team, and I know they don't exist anymore because of, I think, COVID or something really screwed them up. But it's a shame because that's a really cool hockey community.
So you mentioned you saw the world, and Norway was another one of the places. I hope I'm saying this right. Mangalrud was one of the places you played for.
It's close enough. I'm not going to even attempt myself. It's like Mangalrud or something.
Yeah. We had a Norwegian on our team this year, and he would have helped me out, but the time zone difference, So you played for them. You were one of 2 Americans on the team. So how did you end up there, and how hard was it to adjust?
Well, after the season in Alaska, I did want to go to Europe. I had a few different options, and then last second, Dave Livingston was the coach there. He played at BC, there was a Boston connection. He's from Boston. The other American was Jay Lawrence. He's still one of my best. I have a group of 7 that we went to high school with. Texton still. He's one of my 7 best friends still to this day. And we both went out there together, and it was a cool experience. It's expensive out there, I'll tell you that much. They got, it's like $6 for a soda from the machine.
Wow.
But it was a cool experience though. That place was really different in terms of culture shock for me with the language. The language barrier was you go to Hong Kong, that's everybody speaks English. Norway, it's tough to get around unless you start to figure out some Norwegian words here or there, right?
Wow, I actually didn't know that, you can get by with English in Hong Kong. So as far as learning, Hong Kong was your next step to begin coaching. So was big changes like that always something that you were comfortable with?
Well, I'll give you a history lesson. Hong Kong was owned by the Brits until 97. So all the signs are in English and Cantonese. When their kid goes to school, they know Cantonese from birth on, and then they go to school, they learn English right from elementary school. And so, that place was really cool and really easy to get around. It was just a different experience in itself. So that was pretty cool. Yeah, I was gonna go back to Europe after San Francisco, and this opportunity came up where my brother and I were asked from the World Selects program to go out and run their youth program. There was like 400 kids. We went all over Asia, brought the kids. We went U8, U10, U12, U14 teams. We had back-to-back years. We were the first Asian team in the Pee Wee Quebec tournament. Us and Japan sent teams. That was pretty cool. But yeah, it was a good 3 years to start my coaching career and learn my voice in this business.
So as far as languages go, are you fluent in either of those?
No, absolutely not.
No.
I can get in a cab in Hong Kong right now and get you around, but that's as far as I go.
What about Norway?
No, Norway, forget it. I only spent, I spent 5 months in Norway. I spent 3.5 years in Hong Kong,
Right.
and when I was in Hong Kong, I would only come home for 3 weeks in the summer, and then I was back. So I was there, I wasn't like back for the summer. We were still running stuff, and that was our full-time gig for 3.5 years.
So when you were recruiting kids, was communication with them difficult at all?
Well, it's a youth program, so we were running 450 kid program that I didn't have to do recruiting. You want to sign up. We had 8 different city leagues, and then from those city leagues we would choose select teams, and the select teams would travel around from tournament to tournament. Would go to Japan and Seoul, Korea, and China and Taiwan and all over the place, and with those guys. And then kind of the third part of that job was we were full-time skills. We were in skills. So it was like 3 different programs that you would sign up for as a kid over there if you were playing for the Hong Kong Selects, because you'd have the Hong Kong Selects, you'd have the skills program, and then you'd have the regular town or Hong Kong Select League we would have, which each league would be 4 or 5 teams depending on the size.
Okay. Got it. So
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you to consider all the places you've played, coached, worked. And I'm going to say a trait, and I want you to tell me which place fits it best. So of everywhere Kory Falite's been, which has the best food?
Home.
Home?
Yeah, home. Yeah.
Okay. Nicest people?
Alaska.
Place with the most to do outside hockey?
Alaska.
What was absolutely in the middle of nowhere?
Well, Alaska is obviously in the middle of nowhere. You'd make a case for Salt Lake. That was a cool spot in the middle of nowhere. Again, you'd probably have to tip your cap to Alaska.
Okay, and the biggest culture shock?
It would be Hong Kong and Norway for different reasons, obviously.
What about within the U.S.? What was the biggest culture shock?
San Francisco is interesting. It's just, the people are different there than, that are around here. In terms of living, you'd probably say Alaska again, just in terms of it's just got so much going on in terms of you leave for the rink at 9 a.m. It's pitch black. You get to the rink, you leave it at 1 p.m. The sun's already come up and set in that 2-hour span. You know what I mean? So, but then you leave. We won the championship, as you said. I left in June, and at 1 a.m, it's like, it feels like it's 1 p.m. with the sun out, right? So it's a big change from month to month there, sun wise, but with everything included. So
we'll get to our last portion here by getting back to the Wizards. So that's where your coaching career in the U.S. began, joining the Wizards as an assistant. You've head coached their 18s team since 17-18 and the EHL team since 2021, and now the added responsibility of being general manager was just the year after that. So how do you manage it all?
It's I write a lot of notes and a lot of notepads. It's a lot. You just gotta you gotta write a lot of stuff down, and otherwise if I don't write it down, I'll forget about it, right? Because it's just got so many things pulling me in different directions. But got a lot of help from my assistants, Eddie and Joe, and we do. Eddie's my assistant with the U18 team, and Joe assists with with kind of both the 16s and 18s. Joe also does a youth team here as well. So we're all full in with the Wizards. So it's a nice family kind of staff here with, Scott and Michelle and Bobby up front, and Sarah, that we all kind of help each other out. I would say during the season, my 18s is a split season team. So it's a prep school based team that has a lot of Middlesex, Rivers, Belmont Hill kids on it, Dexter kids that we're practicing Tuesday, Thursday nights, and we're playing on the weekends when, our junior team's kind of off, and there's very little conflicts. So it's just busy. It's a busy 10 weeks in the fall. It's a huge sprint. And then when the 18s are done, it's much, much easier to handle.
So getting the whole general manager thing added and having to deal with the administrative side of things, was that at all a tough adjustment?
That's been something that I don't know. That's always been we've always, whether it was, Freddie did it, and then as soon as I took over, I did it. You're managing the roster and everything and the budget, and that's something that I go back to my experience in Hong Kong with managing rosters and budgets and all that stuff. That just kind of my background helps, and obviously if I need help, my front office is there to help. I get a lot of support here. So.
And X's and O's wise between coaching 18s and juniors, are there a lot of differences or no?
There is and there isn't. Just depends on, it's, to me, a lot of times hockey's hockey, and you can draw up whatever you want, but if you don't got 6 guys, including the goalie, on the same page, and you got one guy pulling the wrong directions, it's going to go sour, whatever, whether you're doing a 1-3, 1-4 check or a 2-1, doesn't matter. So I do a lot of similar stuff with the way we play. It's just, to me, hockey comes down to, if you're not winning battles and doing the little things, you're screwed no matter what anyways. So a lot of that goes into it.
So focusing now more on the junior side of things, we talked earlier, you said you expect to have a good amount of returners this year. So Roach, Dallaire, Siri, and Walsh were all returners for you this past season, and they all jumped up in their production. So are you expecting to see the same thing from hopefully a big group of returners this upcoming year?
Yeah, I think we have 8 for sure right now. And, I just, in the last couple of days, I spoke with 3 more that we could have between 8 to 11 right now. And, I think that it's you giving a bigger role, at least to start, and see what you do with it, because you know what you're coming into, the league, what you got to do, and they're going to be given those chances, and let's see what you do with it. And that doesn't mean the other guys don't get their shots. Everybody's going to get their chance at crack at the can, but I think the experience helps. I think a lot of guys come into our league and they don't know the pace of our league. They don't know the age of our league, and they think it's going to be easier than it is. And a lot of guys realize quick that it's a very hard league to play in, and let's see how quickly you adjust. So those guys have gone through that, and yeah, for sure, with both your knowledge and maybe some more opportunities for guys that, they'll excel and move on.
And finally, since it is the spring that we're in, what do you personally enjoy most about this time of year, the off season?
I spend a lot of time with my family, which is A1A. We have a little skiff that we go on every weekend and beach it in the beach and go play in the sand. That's a really cool thing to do. Which the weather's starting to turn and we should be doing that soon. I love golfing. But I for job wise, I like that it switches for me. Recruiting's coming to a close here, at least for the springtime, and it usually picks that back up with some guys in August and when camps go off and that whatnot. But it changes. So I go from seeing 18 to 20-year-olds for 6 months, 7 months, and now I'm giving lessons to 12-year-olds and 8-year-olds and doing skills with the little guys, and it's a good change of pace. And then come August, I'll be sick of the little guys and I'm ready for the 18 to 20-year-olds again. So it's a good little cycle. So
important to have balance. I actually have one last question. I saw in your UMass Lowell bio, your favorite TV show then was Entourage. Is it
not anymore for sure?
Entourage?
No,
okay,
no, absolutely not.
What's taking its place?
I regret putting that down. It's actually a decent show back in the day, but there's a lot of them. I mean, you can say the Seinfelds of the world and all that. My wife and I just watched White Lotus. We thought that was pretty good. It's a mystery show that's kind of slow moving that keeps you on the edge of your seat. We're into everything. We watch a lot of different types of shows, but
Entourage,
I don't have a favorite, honestly.
Entourage is on the back burner though now.
It's on the back burner for sure.
Perfect, Coach. Thank you so much for taking the time today. Really enjoyed having you on, and good luck with the rest of the off season.
Thanks, Jake. Thanks for all you guys do as a league. There's a reason why we put so many guys in college, and you guys are a big part of it. So we appreciate everything you do.
Thanks, Coach. Likewise. Take care.
Talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening to The E Show. Learn more at easternhockeyleague.org and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Also, be sure to subscribe and get notified when next week's podcast is released.